Today we're going to be talking about how a universal life policy works. It's not very well understood, but it's important to understand, especially if you own one of these contracts or are considering one. I hope you enjoy. There's a ton of information floating around out there, videos and what have you, related to the latest iteration of universal life, which is called indexed universal life. One of the things we need to understand is all universal life policies are built on the same chassis. Now, the first universal life policy was designed and came out in 1979. And it was based on interest rates. And if you think about 1979, interest rates were crazy high. So what you had was, you had this bucket, and it was made up of a couple of components. We had a side account that was building cash. That was cash value. And then you had net death benefit. So let's just say you owned a $500,000 policy, and you had $200,000 of cash value that had accumulated in this contract. So if you were to pass away, the policy is going to pay $500,000. It's made up of the $200,000 of cash in the contract and then $300,000 of net death benefit. So the insurance company is on the hook for the $300,000 net death benefit. Now, the thing to understand is this contract is made up of a side account that's accumulating cash and then an annual renewable term. And what we know about an annual renewable term is the mortality cost goes up each year as a person gets older. Now, the hope is that as you get older, if this cash value will grow, it will help shrink the net death benefit, which will help control the mortality cost. But the thing that you need to always understand is this contract always has a hole in it, and it starts out very small because a person, when they're young, the mortality cost is very low. But it has this little hole. It's always leaking out dollars in the form of mortality costs. Well, as you get older, that hole gets a little bigger, and then it gets bigger, and then it gets bigger, and it keeps leaking out more and more. Now, if you're in the unfortunate position of the contract underperforming, which is what we saw with the current assumption universal lives when they rolled out, and then the second iteration, which was variable universal life, what ends up happening is if this cash value goes down or does not perform the way it was anticipated, that means the net death benefit is greater, which means that hole gets bigger and it drains out more money to cover that excess mortality cost. Now, oftentimes I run into people and they tell me they've designed a contract where they are planning on paying to a certain age, then they're going to stop paying, and then they're going to start drawing income out of the contract to supplement their retirement. Certainly a viable strategy. The thing to understand here is even when you're not paying the premium, that mortality cost is still dripping out of that contract. And depending on the gap here, between here and here, is going to determine how much mortality cost is going to be coming out. So if you think about it, a person getting into retirement with this kind of contract, they're anticipating that they're going to be pulling money out of it, and at the same time, the insurance company is going to be pulling money out of it. So it's going to be put under extreme pressure in order to be able to try to support itself and do the things that it was promised to potentially do. So you've got three iterations. You got the original universal life, which was based on the crazy high interest rates. And then when that stumbled and didn't work very well, the industry came up with variable universal life, where they took the cash and invested it in the markets. But as that went up and down, it didn't really shake out. Then they came up with the current version, which is indexed universal life. The thing you need to understand is all three of these versions are built on the same chassis. So they have the same structure, internal structure. They're only changing how interest gets credited to the cash inside the account. Now, I'm not telling you this is a bad contract. What I'm simply saying is you need to be fully aware of how these contracts operate, what's going on internally, so you can make a reasonable decision as to whether you feel like it will do what you want it to do. And if you're going to own one of these contracts, that contract needs to be monitored on an annual basis. You need to be looking at that every single year to see if it is on pace, if it's fell off pace, and if it's fell off pace, what you can do, potentially adding more premium. Maybe you can increase more premium to offset the performance that you did not get that you were anticipating, or you might make an adjustment to the death benefit. So the main piece to come out of this is, if you're going to own that kind of contract, you got to watch it very, very carefully, more so than what folks typically do as it relates to insurance. So if you've got questions about this or anything else related to life insurance, the different types of life insurance, and the interesting things you can do with them as it relates to not only protecting yourself, but also increasing your cash flow in retirement, don't hesitate to give me a call here at Westside Advisors and Insurance Services. I hope you have a great week.